I think the Shroud of Turin is real. And I find it such a fascinating topic. Think about this. In my generation, we grew up on Indiana Jones tracking down magic items like the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. I don't remember what Temple of Doom was about, to be honest with you. I was never really a huge Indiana Jones fan myself. I watched all of them once. I think I've seen Temple of Doom multiple times. The only thing I really remember from that movie is where they like rip the guy's heart out, because that was like scarring as a child. But it really interests me that in a generation that grew up on stories like that and increasingly demands some kind of physical proof for the existence of God, which generally speaking is a categorical error. You can't have physical proof of God. There are other sorts of evidences. There are other categories of evidences, like philosophical evidence and experiential evidence and eyewitness evidence of miraculous events. That's generally historically been the evidence for God. But our generation demands like physical, scientific, testable, laboratory, microscope, viewable proof that God exists, or else they won't accept him. And the properties of the Shroud of Turin are remarkably that. I think the best way that the Shroud of Turin has been described is as God taking a selfie. So if you can just like suspend your disbelief for a moment and really think about this, what if some kind of burst of thermal and light energy for the briefest period of time, what if that just happened to this body and left a selfie on the cloth? And what if the resurrection was just real? Like, what if that was real? And we have this cloth. It could be fake. I mean, sure, yeah, it could be fake. And it's funny because it's been debunked and rebunked many times over the decades. And there's a lot of conversation about it currently, at least if you're a nerd about it like I am. And the thing that makes it compelling to me, why even though a new study can come out and debunk the Shroud of Turin, and that's going to keep happening, I continue to be leaning towards its reality. And every time there has been some kind of debunking, like the carbon dating test from the 80s, eventually it comes out that there was some kind of problem with that, some kind of flaw, and it gets, like I said, rebunked. And I was just reading Proverbs this morning, and there was a proverb for that. Let me go get my Bible. I'll read it for you. Proverbs slaps, by the way. It literally slaps. Sometimes it hits you with some slaps in the face. It is Proverbs 18:17. The first to state his case seems just until another comes and cross-examines him. So the idea is that, yeah, the first person to state their case makes a really compelling case, but then you get to ask questions and poke holes in it. And of course, this most recent new study of the Shroud of Turin failed to address some of the significant already established facts about it. So it didn't really debunk anything. It was a guy messing around with a 3D modeling program. No offense to him. I mean, it's cool. Like, it's cool that he was able to do what he did. I respect the ability, but it doesn't address some of the serious properties of the Shroud of Turin, like the blood and the photonegative imprint on it, the fact that that happened anyway, like how did it get there? You would have to posit that someone in the 1400s managed to handcraft this microns thick image in a photonegative 400 years before the invention of photography. That's a possible explanation. I just don't see how that's necessarily more likely than that it's just real. The pollen matches, the weave matches. Picture is of a man that bears characteristics similar to descriptions of Jesus. It has real blood on it that's AB negative type, that's from a Middle Eastern man. We can do DNA tests on it to determine these things. What do you want? What more kind of evidence do you want? Sure, I suppose it's possible that somebody did this by hand in the Middle Ages. Like, really? But no, I do. I think it's real. I think we have a real magic item. I think that the Shroud of Turin is real. And I think that just confirms to be true what a lot of us want in our hearts to be true anyway. We love these like superhero movies. We love fantasy and magic and all that stuff. And I think our heart longs for this to be true. But I think this confirms that it is true, that the reality that we live in is just stranger than fiction. And the resurrection is real, and the universe is ultimately good, and we are safe under the care of a just, good, trustworthy God. That's a nice story to live in. It makes life much better. That's all I can say about it. So, in conclusion, yeah, I think the Shroud of Turin is a real Indiana Jones magic object that does, in fact, give us physical evidence for the existence of God. And does my faith in God live or die with the Shroud of Turin? Because I know that's super controversial among Christians, because Christians always have to make a controversy out of something. When I was growing up, it was Harry Potter. My God, the wasted opportunities. That is a Christian story through and through. Oh my goodness. What a missed opportunity, guys. I'll talk about that another time. I would love to talk about that. I think we love stories like that because we want it to be true that our universe is magical. And I think it is. I think it's true. And I think that if you can really embrace that truth, it makes everything bearable. Because even the worst experiences that you can go through, they're part of a story that's taking you somewhere ultimately that will be good. And you'll live happily ever after. The end.